The previous afternoon, Thursday, May 9th, when all of us had climbed from Camp 3 to Camp 4, Fisher hadn't reached the tent on the South Col until after 5 p.m., and he was visibly tired when he'd finally gotten there, although he did his best to disguise the fatigue from his clients. That evening, recalled his tent mate Charlotte Fox, I couldn't tell that Scott might have been sick. He was acting like Mr. Gung-Ho, getting everyone psyched up like a football coach before the big game. In truth, Fisher was exhausted from the physical and mental strain of the preceding weeks. Although he possessed extraordinary reserves of energy, he'd been profligate with those reserves, and by the time he got to camp, they were nearly depleted. Scott's strong person, Boo Creve acknowledged after the expedition, but before summit attempt is tired, has many problems, spend lots of power. Worry, 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 worry. Scott nervous, but he keep inside. Fisher hid the fact from everyone, as well, that he may have been clinically ill during the summit attempt. In 1984, during an expedition to Nepal's Annapurna Massif, he'd picked up a gastrointestinal parasite, Entamoeba histolytica, which he was unable to entirely purge from his body over the years that followed. The bug emerged from dormancy on a regular basis, producing bouts of acute physical distress and leaving a cyst on his liver. Insisting it was nothing to worry about, Fisher mentioned the ailment to few people at base camp. According to Jane Bromet, when the disease was in its active phase, Fisher would break into these intense sweating spells and get the shakes. The spells would lay him low, but they would only last for 10 or 15 minutes and then pass. In Seattle, he'd get the attacks maybe once a week or so, but when he was stressed, they'd occur more frequently. At base camp, he was getting them more often, every other day, sometimes every day. If Fisher suffered such attacks at Camp 4 or above, he never mentioned it. Fox reported that soon after he crawled into their tent Thursday evening, Scott conked out and slept really hard for about 2 hours. When he woke up at 10 p.m., he was slow getting ready, and he remained in camp long after the last of his clients, guides, and Sherpas departed for the summit. It's unclear when Fisher actually left Camp 4, perhaps as late as 1 a.m. on Friday, May 10th. He dragged far behind everyone else through most of the summit day, and he didn't arrive at the South Summit until around 1 p.m. I first saw him at about 2:45, on my way down from the top, while I waited on the Hillary step with Andy Harris for the crowd to clear out. Fisher was the last climber up the rope, and he looked extremely wasted. After we exchanged pleasantries, he spoke briefly with Martin Adams and Anatoly Boo Creve, who were standing just above Harris and me, waiting to descend the step. "Hey, Martin." Fisher bantered through his oxygen mask, trying to affect a jocular tone. "Do you think you can summit Mount Everest?" "Hey, Scott," Adams replied, sounding annoyed that Fisher hadn't offered any congratulations. "I just did." Next, Fisher had a few words with Boo Creve. As Adams remembered the conversation, Boo Creve told Fisher, "I am going down with Martin." Then Fisher plodded slowly on toward the summit, while Harris, Boo Creve, Adams, and I turned to rappel down the step. Nobody discussed Fisher's exhausted appearance. It didn't occur to any of us that he might be in trouble.